What's up, y'all? It's Chris here to talk about last night's WEC 45 and Strikeforce shows. Great night at MMA, 9 fights shown in all, and not a bad fight. Anyways, I'm going to talk about WEC 45 first because that's the first event I saw. First fight night to KU Mizugaki against Scott Jorgensen. Jorgensen dropped Mizugaki early. After that, it was pretty much a back and forth fight on the feet, but Jorgensen got the better one with the wrestling, with the takedowns and whatnot. Goes to a decision. Jorgensen gets unanimous decision, rightfully so. Good performance, though, by both fighters. Joseph Benavidez gets a first round knockout over Hani Yaha. Dropped Hani with a punch and jumped all over him, was swarming him on the referee. She stopped the fight. I thought it was an early stoppage. Hani was getting hit, but nothing too devastating or anything. He was actually in the midst of getting up, but she stopped the fight, and good win for Benavidez. Good way to bounce back after his first loss, but unfortunate loss for Hani Yaha, especially the way it ended. Next up, Brandon Vischer against Courtney Buck. Good fight while it lasted, man. Guys were just throwing down, back and forth. But Buck got dropped with a punch, I believe, or got hurt and fell back. And Brandon Vischer just jumped on him and landed probably some of the most brutal hammer fists I've ever seen in MMA. Absolutely just devastating. Probably for the best for Buck that he was knocked out so he couldn't actually feel those because, man, those were some serious, serious hammer fists by Vischer. Look forward to seeing more of this Vischer kid. He looks like a aggressive fighter, strong fighter, dynamic fighter. So look forward to see more of this kid in the WEC. Chris Wardesky making his WEC debut against Anthony Njokwani. Problem for Wardesky, he's a stand-up fighter, but he ran into a better stand-up fighter in this fight. Njokwani was getting the better of it. Then Wardesky at one point gets up from a takedown and starts running across the ring in the wrong direction. I don't know what the hell he was doing. It reminded me of something Tito Ortiz did in his first fight against Vanderlei Silva, but fortunately for Tito, didn't pay for it the way Wardesky did here. Njokwani just threw a high kick and absolutely just dropped Wardesky, and just Wardesky was hurt. Njokwani jumped on him and finished him off with punches. Good win for Njokwani. Look forward to see where he goes next. Just another good name in the WEC lightweight division, but man, bad loss for Wardesky, man. He's gonna have to. He's only got 2 losses, but his 2 losses are pretty brutal. Brad Pickett gets a win in the second round by Peruvian neck over Kyle Diaz. Only mention that because whenever I see guys that set up crazy submissions like that, I just, being not someone that's never trained jiu-jitsu, I don't understand how they see these submissions before they put them on, but either way, it was a really good win, or a good submission for Pickett. On to the main event, Donald Cowboy Cerrone against Ed 9mm Ratcliff. What can I say, man? Donald Cerrone, you got to watch this guy fight every time. One of the most exciting fighters in MMA by far. Definitely one of my favorite fighters. I mean, this guy just brings it every single time. Ratcliff was getting the better early on with the kicks and whatnot. Just early. Donald's a bit of a slow starter, but unfortunately for Ed, he got kneed in the balls twice in the first round, once in the second as well. But it seemed to take a little bit out of him. I don't know how much. If you've ever been hit in the knee or hit in the balls, not only does it hurt, but it does drain you a little bit of energy. It does sap you a little bit. And, I can't imagine what being kneed by Donald the Cowboy Cerrone 3 times in a fight can do to you. Not to say that's the reason why he won the fight. I don't think it is, but I do think that it obviously had a bit of an adverse effect on Ratcliff. It appeared so. He definitely looked to be pretty distraught. But credit to Ed. A lot of lesser fighters or guys with lesser heart might have not continued on after taking those. But he came back and fought every time. Anyways, though, Donald just, once he started going, latter half of the first round from there on, just is the better fighter, started throwing in, mixing in kicks at the head and the body, mixing in the clinch and the knees, punches. He did get deducted points in the first and second round for those unintentional groin shots. So it may have dictated the way he went in the third. The third round, I think, maybe not knowing how the scorecards looked, Donald decided to take it to the ground. Showed Ed's lack of ground skills, wrestling and jiu-jitsu. The takedowns were very elementary that Donald used, but they were successful. And actually, Donald almost stopped him in the second round. In the second round, he had a tight modified guillotine choke, but fortunately for Ed, the time ran out. But in the second round, or in the third round, once Donald got it down there, he was schooling Ed on the ground. Ended up getting a rear naked choke for the win. Impressive win, and another just exciting fight for Donald Cerrone. Not sure what's next for him. Probably the winner of Varner versus Henderson, which happens next month. Either fight would be a rematch. I'd like to see either fight because both of their fights were his fights against Varner and Henderson were both exciting. I actually thought Cerrone Henderson was Fight of the Year in MMA. Cerrone also made noise about possibly jumping down to 145 featherweight. Would love to see a fight against him against WEC 145 champion Jose Aldo. Man, that fight would be that's probably one of the most exciting matchups you can make in MMA. So regardless of what next for the Cowboy, I'm looking forward to it. One of my favorite fighters, and just a guy you got to see fight every single time out because he makes for great television. Moving on to the Strikeforce Evolution card. First fight of the night, King Mo Lawal against Mike Whitehead. Not a whole lot to say here. King Mo gets the win. Knockout first round, technical knockout. Hurt Whitehead, dropped him with a punch, and then finished off with ground and pound. Actually put Whitehead out, so that was impressive. But the impressive things about this for me was just King Mo. He's only a year in. Whitehead has him on experience. Had about 40 or 50 pounds, but King Mo, still beat him pretty easily. So King Mo is still relatively young in his career, only about a year or so in. Great addition to Strikeforce. Just looking forward to see what's next for King Mo. He can fight at heavyweight or light heavyweight. I think he's better served at light heavyweight, but either way, hopefully if he keeps winning and Mousasi does, Jagard and Mousasi, we'll be able to see them fight at the end of the year. I think it'll make for a good fight. Matt Lindland against Jacare, both making their Strikeforce debuts. Jacare gets the win by arm triangle in the first round. Not surprising, if this fight was going to hit the ground, Jacare was going to win by submission more than likely, and he did. I do want to say, though, Jacare did look better on the feet. Looked a little bit improved than he has. His technique looked better. His punches looked crisper. He's training with the same guys that train Anderson Silva, so hopefully he'll be able to pick up the standing game more. He's a great addition as well to Strikeforce, especially in the middleweight division. He can set up a rematch with Mayhem Miller. Would love to see that. And eventually fight with Jake Shields. That's an opponent he wants. And I think style-wise, that's a perfect fight for him. I actually think Jacare, even though Shields is the champion, I think I'd favor Jacare in that fight. Next up, Josh Thompson against Gilbert Melendez. Rematch for the Strikeforce lightweight title. This fight actually went the opposite of the first fight. I thought Thompson would win based on the first fight, but this fight went the opposite. Gilbert Melendez looked much improved from the first fight. Josh Thompson didn't look as good. In the first fight, Gilbert was the aggressor, and Josh was more the counter fighter. Roles were completely reversed here. Thompson was the aggressor, and Gilbert played more the counter fighter. But Josh just didn't throw as many kicks in the first as he did in the first fight. And they got in a lot of exchanges here, flurries and stuff. But whenever they did these punching exchanges, Gilbert seemed to get the better of it every single time. Really exciting fight, though. For a 5-round championship fight, a lot of exciting moments in this fight. Gilbert ultimately gets the decision, rightfully so. I'd love to see a rubber match because both have won fights against each other, and each won their fights pretty decisively. So I'd love to see the rubber match. But credit to both for putting on one of the better fights of the year. Oh, and also, though, Josh fatigued late. I don't know if that was based on the injuries or whatnot that he's the layoff, but he was tired late, but he never quit trying. But Gilbert, just got the better of it. Main event, Cung Lee versus Scott Smith. I picked Cung Lee to win this fight. I thought style-wise it was a perfect fight for him, although Scott Smith's one of my favorite fighters. I just thought Kung's style would be, Scott would be tailor-made for Scott Smith. Or Scott Smith's style should be tailor-made for Cung Lee. And it was so for the first 2.5 rounds. Cung Lee was kicking Scott around the ring, literally. I want to give John McCarthy a lot of credit for not stopping this fight in the first round. Cung dropped Scott and was unloading a lot of punches on him. Scott was just getting hit. But McCarthy, a lot of lesser referees might have stopped the fight, but McCarthy did, and he gave Scott a chance, and rightfully so, obviously the way the fight eventually turned out. Scott just took an ass whooping like usual for the first 2.5 rounds. Thing about Scott Smith, I was talking to Voice for Vendetta on here after the fight. He's like the Arturo Gatti and Diego Chico Corrales of MMA. He takes a beating, and either you're going to take him out, or you're going to beat on him until he comes back and takes you out. And that was the case here as well. Although Cung was dominating this fight, he seemed to get tired really late in the fight, particularly in the third round, and it gave Scott the opportunity to close the distance and finally catch up with Cung, and that's all he needed was an opportunity. He hurt Cung with the left, dropped him, and just swarmed him. Cung Lee's never really been hurt in a fight. That with just being tired, just didn't have the ability to survive. Scott swarmed him, dropped him, jumped on him, and just unloaded punches on him from the back, and John McCarthy had to stop the fight to save him. Great, exciting fight, especially the way it ended. And a great victory for Scott Smith, in a fight that he was obviously going to lose if it would have made to a decision. As for Cung, I don't know what's next for him. I don't know if he's going to continue fighting. He's got the whole movie career and whatnot. after taking his first loss and just a devastating way to lose a fight. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. As for Scott, just throw him back in the Strikeforce middleweight division. There's plenty of good matchups for them. Actually, I'd like to rematch with Benji Raddick. I know Raddick wants a rematch. Would love to see that. But like I said, great night of fights. If you didn't see WEC 45 or Strikeforce Evolution, make sure you catch them if you get a chance because they were great fights. And Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Scott Smith, must see TV every time, man. Those guys always bring it. Anyways, be sure and check out the websites at wobblybloodfightshow.com. My Twitter, if interested, I'll put the links and information part as always. Probably won't be back for a couple weeks for MMA vid because there's not any events for a couple weeks. But until then, y'all, I'm out.